The British monarchy, as embodied by the House of Windsor, represents a complex tapestry of historical conquest, strategic alliances, and cultural adaptation. Originating from a blend of European noble lineages, the current ruling family traces its roots to German dynasties that integrated into the English throne through marriage and inheritance. This integration began with the Hanoverian succession in the early 18th century and evolved further in the 19th century when a German prince married into the existing royal line, shifting the house name and introducing new ancestral connections. Over time, these unions not only diversified the bloodline but also embedded the monarchy within a broader European aristocratic network, where marriages served as tools for political stability and territorial expansion. The family's adoption of an English-sounding name during a period of national conflict underscores the monarchy's responsiveness to public sentiment, transforming it from a perceived foreign entity into a symbol of national identity. Critically, this historical trajectory reveals the monarchy's reliance on conquest and seizure as foundational mechanisms for accumulating power and wealth. Lands were initially acquired through military victories, such as the Norman invasion in the 11th century, which established a feudal system where the sovereign claimed ultimate ownership over vast territories. Subsequent expansions occurred via wars, forfeitures from defeated rivals, and escheats where ownerless properties reverted to the crown. These practices created enduring estates that generate revenue today, highlighting how ancient aggressions underpin modern financial structures. However, the monarchy's persistence raises questions about its relevance in a democratic era, where ceremonial duties coexist with criticisms of unearned privilege and institutional inequality. The family's distant links to figures of notoriety, including Eastern European rulers known for brutal tactics, add layers of intrigue and controversy to their heritage, prompting examinations of how such connections influence public perceptions of royal legitimacy. In a broader sense, the monarchy's evolution reflects a shift from direct rule to symbolic influence, maintained through financial intermingling with national assets. Estates like vast duchies provide private income, while state-managed properties fund official functions, creating a symbiotic relationship between the crown and the government. This financial entanglement ensures the family's enduring power, even as devolved administrations in constituent regions assert greater autonomy. Yet, scandals throughout the lineage, from marital breakdowns to associations with disreputable figures, underscore vulnerabilities, fueling debates on whether tradition justifies the institution's costs and privileges. As the monarchy navigates contemporary challenges, its history of adaptation through name changes, alliances, and economic strategies illustrates a resilient yet contested pillar of British society. Historical origins and lineage. The origins of the current British royal house lie in a series of strategic integrations from continental Europe, particularly Germany, into the English monarchy. In the early 18th century, a German electoral house ascended the throne due to Protestant succession laws, marking the beginning of a lineage that would later incorporate further German elements. By the mid-19th century, a marriage between an English queen and a prince from a central German duchy introduced a new dynastic name, which persisted until external pressures necessitated a rebranding. This shift was driven by wartime animosities, leading to the adoption of a name evocative of an ancient English fortress, thereby anglicizing the family's identity while preserving the underlying bloodline. Such changes highlight the monarchy's pragmatic approach to maintaining public favor amid geopolitical tensions. Lineage tracing reveals connections to a diverse array of historical figures, including Eastern European nobility with reputations for severity. Through maternal lines, the family links to a 15th-century Wallachian ruler infamous for impaling adversaries, a connection spanning over a dozen generations and manifesting in modern property acquisitions in the region. Other ancestors include medieval English kings accused of fratricide to secure power, Tudor monarchs who executed spouses and reformed religion through dissolution of religious institutions, and Plantagenet rulers who initiated prolonged continental wars. These figures embody both expansionist ambitions and moral ambiguities, with actions like compiling comprehensive land surveys for taxation or establishing chivalric orders coexisting alongside executions and territorial claims. Critically, This heritage underscores how royal power often derived from violence and opportunism, shaping a narrative of conquest that persists in institutional memory. Further back, the lineage extends to Frankish emperors and Norman conquerors who fundamentally altered the English landscape. An 11th century duke's invasion and subsequent victory established a feudal order, redistributing lands to loyalists and centralizing authority under the crown. Earlier ties to Carolingian leaders promoted cultural revivals amid territorial expansions, while distant relations to Mongol founders reflect the broad intercontinental web of royal intermarriages. This diversity counters notions of isolation, as offspring from such unions could ascend thrones in varied realms, introducing genetic and cultural variety. However, the emphasis on strategic pairings also perpetuated a system where power concentrated among a narrow elite, raising ethical questions about inherited rule in diverse societies. Religious and ancestral claims. Ancestral claims within the British monarchy often invoke connections to ancient religious lineages, particularly those tied to biblical figures. A 19th century belief system posits that the royal family descends from lost Israelite tribes, linking them to patriarchal bloodlines through migrations and intermarriages. Adherents, including past monarchs, viewed the throne as a continuation of an ancient Davidic seat, with the sovereign embodying a divine mandate. This ideology, embraced by several family members across generations, intertwines royal identity with theological narratives, suggesting a shared heritage with scriptural prophets and kings. Critically, such assertions lack verifiable documentation, relying instead on interpretive chronicles and faith-based genealogies, which invite skepticism regarding their historical accuracy. Interactions with Jewish communities further complicate these claims, revealing a history of both adversity and alliance. Medieval expulsions and pogroms under early kings contrast with modern positive engagements, such as patronage of Holocaust remembrance and recognition of heroic acts during global conflicts. Traditions like ritual circumcisions performed by Jewish practitioners persist in the family, reflecting cultural borrowings without direct blood ties. No confirmed Jewish ancestry appears in core lineages, though extended branches include marriages incorporating such heritage. This dynamic illustrates the monarchy's evolution from exclusionary policies to inclusive symbolism, yet it also highlights unresolved tensions in reconciling past atrocities with contemporary advocacy. Broader religious affiliations extend to assertions of descent from messianic figures, derived from shared ancient roots in theological frameworks. The family's adherence to these beliefs influenced personal convictions and public roles, positioning the monarchy as a guardian of spiritual continuity. However, the absence of empirical evidence transforms these claims into cultural artifacts rather than proven facts, prompting critiques of how myth-making sustains institutional authority. In an era of secular scrutiny, such ancestral narratives serve to bolster legitimacy, even as they expose the monarchy to accusations of perpetuating unexamined privileges rooted in fabricated or exaggerated histories. Financial empire and properties. The financial foundation of the British monarchy rests on vast estates accumulated through historical mechanisms, now managed as investment portfolios. Principal holdings include urban real estate, rural lands, and offshore rights, valued collectively in the tens of billions. These assets generate annual revenues through rentals, renewables, and commercial leases, with profits partially funding official duties via governmental grants. The sovereign's private duchies provide additional income, exempt from certain taxes but subject to voluntary contributions, underscoring a blend of privilege and accountability. Critically, this structure positions the family as passive investors, benefiting from professional management without direct operational involvement, raising questions about equity in a system where public funds indirectly support private wealth. Properties extend beyond domestic borders, including rural estates in Eastern Europe acquired due to ancestral ties. Holdings in regions historically linked to notorious forebears serve as retreats and conservation projects, with annual visits averaging less than a week. Domestic castles and palaces, some privately owned and others state-managed, number over a dozen, encompassing residences, ruins, and heritage sites. Acquisitions stemmed from 19th-century purchases funded by estate revenues, reflecting a shift from conquest to commercial expansion. This portfolio's scale invites scrutiny over its origins in seizures and forfeitures, contrasting with modern emphases on sustainability and philanthropy. Overall wealth estimates place the sovereign's personal fortune in the hundreds of millions, with family assets far exceeding that through institutional ties. Breakdowns reveal reliance on land-based income, investments, and inheritances, sustaining a lifestyle amid public debates on costs. The intermingling of crown and state finances ensures enduring influence, yet it perpetuates perceptions of unearned advantage. In evaluating this empire, one must consider how historical aggressions evolved into financial dominance, maintaining power through economic leverage rather than overt rule. Structure and duties of the monarchy. The constitutional framework of the British monarchy delineates ceremonial and symbolic duties, with the sovereign acting as head of state in a system where executive power resides with elected officials. Responsibilities include appointing government leaders, assenting to legislation, and representing the nation in diplomatic capacities, all performed neutrally and on ministerial advice. As commander-in-chief and religious figurehead, the role extends to military oversight and ecclesiastical governance, though these are largely formal. Critically, the necessity of such functions in a modern democracy is debated, with proponents citing stability and critics highlighting redundancy and expense. The primary domain encompasses 4 constituent nations, each with varying autonomy through devolved administrations. Central authority handles unified policies, while regional bodies manage localized affairs, fostering a balance between integration and independence. This structure evolved from unions and partitions, reflecting historical consolidations and contemporary accommodations. The monarchy's symbolic unity across these entities underscores its role in national cohesion, yet devolution challenges traditional hierarchies, prompting questions about centralized influence in diverse polities. Extended purview includes overseas dependencies and shared realms, where ceremonial oversight maintains historical links without direct governance. These territories, acquired through past expansions, operate self-sufficiently under local administrations, with the crown represented symbolically. This global footprint amplifies the monarchy's soft power, but it also evokes critiques of colonial legacies. In assessing duties, the institution's adaptation to fragmented authority reveals a resilient yet anachronistic framework, balancing tradition with evolving political realities. Conclusion: House of Windsor rise, German roots, name change, and contemporary role. Reflecting on the British monarchy's trajectory, its survival hinges on a delicate interplay of history, finance, and symbolism. From origins in conquest and European alliances to modern rebrandings amid conflict, the institution has navigated shifts in identity and power. Ancestral claims and diverse lineages enrich its narrative, yet they expose vulnerabilities to scrutiny over legitimacy and ethics. Financially, the transformation of seized lands into investment vehicles sustains influence, positioning the family as stewards of a vast empire amid debates on privilege. Critically, scandals across generations, from abdications and affairs to associations with controversial figures, undermine public trust, fueling perceptions of detachment and hypocrisy. Duties, while ceremonial, provide continuity in a devolved and global context, but their necessity in democratic societies remains contested. The monarchy's intermingling with state assets ensures endurance, yet it invites calls for reform or abolition, highlighting tensions between tradition and equality. Ultimately, the House of Windsor's persistence embodies a critical paradox, an institution rooted in violence and adaptation that now relies on economic leverage and cultural resonance. As it confronts contemporary criticisms, its future depends on balancing historical weight with modern relevance, ensuring that power derived from the past serves the present without perpetuating inequities. This evolution underscores the monarchy's role as both a unifying force and a focal point for societal reflection.